action with action packs.
Motorized action packs for fighting in close.
Hey, welcome to Half the Battle.
Hankamania may have run wild last week, but today we're back to small vehicles and playsets.
And because today's subject is so small, you're getting a 2-for-1 deal.
We'll be talking about both the G.I.Joe helicopter motorized backpack accessory and the Cobra Gyrocopter vehicle pack. It's a sort of a yin and yang deal. I'll talk about them individually, but we'll also compare and contrast.
We'll start with the oldest one.
So meet the creatively named G.I. Joe helicopter. This, vehicle was released in 1987 with all original parts. It's a helicopter backpack. Yeah, you can see why I needed to talk about more than one toy today.
There isn't that much to work with here.
The helicopter does have some features apart from the obvious one. It has two movable stabilizer fins in the back, and the arms can move too, though they click into the downward position, so you have to pull them out of their socket to move them to the upward position. The main feature, of course, is that the blades really spin. There's a wind-up button on the bottom and an on and off switch on the back. You wind it up, the thing spins. Groundbreaking innovation there.
And I'd love to show you in detail, but the damn thing broke on me like minutes before I started filming, and I don't have time to try and repair it.
I'm afraid you're just gonna have to use your imagination to see the truly epic play feature. Let your mind palace take you there. One weird thing is that they gave this thing what I think are some armaments. It's got two things that I assume must be gun barrels on the front, like right next to where a figure's head is when using it. Yeah, that seems perfectly fine.
Unless you like having functioning eardrums for some reason.
The color scheme, light blue and silver, is boring. That's all I can say about it, really. It's bland. As with all these accessory packs, you have to use a figure stand or bend the figure over for it to stay upright when wearing it. In this case, though, that's less of a problem, since kids wouldn't really just pose the figure, but would use the pack to make it fly.
No, in this case, posing the thing is only a problem for adult collectors.
Overall, from the design to the name, the helicopter is bland and unremarkable, but I'll admit it was fun for kids to have a little toy that made their Joes fly. Especially because it had been many years since that jetpack had come out. Now, let's move on to the equally brilliantly named Cobra Gyrocopter. This toy was released in 1988 with all original parts. And this looks much more like it. It looks like a proper Cobra vehicle, albeit in miniaturized form. It looks cool.
Well, for a certain value of cool anyway.
The traditional black and red Cobra colors immediately make me think of the Cobra Fang. Which begs the question, why the hell didn't they call this thing the Mini Fang or something instead of the generic Gyrocopter name?
It would have fit perfectly.
Besides looking cooler than the helicopter, it also seems like it's much more fun to play with. The wings can fold up while the steering column can fold down, and the entire front end tucks in under the thing. Also, the peg for plugging figures in can move downwards. All this is needed to transform it into the backpack form.
That reminds me, just like with the helicopter, why is the backpack form even a thing?
I mean, yes, I know it's the gimmick of the toys, but why would you ever want to lug around a helicopter on your back when you could, fly the damn thing? Speaking of flying, the motorized gimmick on the gyrocopter is a bit different compared to the helicopter. And it's also sort of the opposite of what you'd expect from a copter. Oh, the blades still spin?
But there's more to it than that.
You see, this thing has wheels, and the way it works is you pull the toy back, which winds up the mechanism, and when you release it, the blades spin and the thing moves forward. So, to get the most out of this flying vehicle, you have to move it on the ground.
Yeah, that just makes perfect sense.
Also, for this to work with a figure on it, you'd have to keep the legs straight, while the more natural position would be with the knees bent. Well, I say natural, there's no way this doesn't look incredibly cramped and uncomfortable. Plus, those guns on the wings will shred a person's legs to pieces if they're actually used. The worst thing the Joe version will do is permanently deafen you. In conclusion, it looks really nice, but is quite impractical. Still, between the two of them, I vastly prefer the Cobra version. And those were the only toys the Copters ever got.
That means it's time to talk about the character, starting... Wait a minute, did I even bother making fake file cards for these motorized accessory packs? Ah, I did. Okay, fine, but you're only getting one. There, everybody happy?
We'll start with the packaging. The helicopter has Jinx piloting it, both in the art and on the back, but you could really put any Joe there. Jinx is actually kind of a weird choice here, since a noisy helicopter doesn't exactly scream stealthy ninja to me. For the gyrocopter, they made an Astro Viper the pilot. For 1988, yeah, this made sense since that figure is also from that year, and it's the closest to a pilot there was at the time.
Nowadays though,
I'd pick the Heli Viper as pilot, or even an ordinary Viper. By the way, that tiny seat cannot be comfortable for your crotch. No wonder so many Astro Vipers have broken waist pieces.
speaking of the packaging, there's a difference in what these things were called.
The helicopter is part of the Action Pack line, while the gyrocopter was called a Vehicle Pack. It's weird they have this distinction just 1 year apart. As far as other media go, the gyrocopter wasn't in the cartoon, but they did show up for like 1 page in the comic, in issue 86 to be precise. The characters riding them do not look comfortable. As far as the helicopter goes, I couldn't find it in the cartoon or comic, nor find evidence online of any appearances.
And that's really frustrating because I have this image in my head of characters using them in the comics. Maybe Snake Eyes or Scarlet, though that could just be the Mandela effect.
If you know of this thing showing up in the comic, do let me know in the comments below.
You know what's funny?
I went through a bunch of comics fully expecting to find the helicopter, but instead I stumbled on that page featuring the gyrocopter, which I didn't think appeared in the comic at all.
Weird how things can turn out.
Lastly, both the action packs and vehicle packs were featured in commercials, so there's that I suppose. And those were the G.I.Joe helicopter and the Cobra Gyrocopter. Truly the two most inventive names in the history of the toy line. While they both perform the same function, one looks really cool, the other looks boring. Or to use a dead meme, this one sparks joy, this one does not spark joy.
Well, I'll see you next time, everybody. And hey, why not like, share, and subscribe if that's your thing.
Joe's gonna turn back. Cobra attacks. Going into action with action packs. Motorized action packs for fighting in close and going where vehicles can't.
Cobra's hiding on that hill.